Good afternoon. Officials are providing an update on the firefighting efforts at the Thorncliffe Park high-rise. Right now, let's listen in.
Do we do the whole name spelling as usual?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, yeah. No problem. You guys let me know when.
Now, we're live.
Fire Chief Jim Jessop, Jessop. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending. As you all know, shortly after 1:30 afternoon on Thursday, Toronto Fire Services responded to the report of a fire at these two buildings, and we have been on site 24 hours a day since then, actively fighting the fire. The first thing I want to do is acknowledge and thank all of the displaced residents for their patience, their resilience, and their understanding. I can't imagine what it would be like to be dislocated and moved from your home in the middle of the night and put up in a hotel or be staying with family and friends, especially during this time of year. So I do want to absolutely acknowledge that and thank them for that because it is tough. So as of today, literally an hour ago, I was up on the roof with our senior command team again, and we have been throughout the building, and the fire continues to burn. So the fire is not extinguished yet, and in fact, what I did today was I brought a sample. I want to show you what exactly is burning and try to help you and the occupants and the residents understand why this has become such a challenge. This is the material, which is combustible particle board that was placed between an expansion joint. That is causing us the problem. And access to getting to this is next to impossible for our crews, and we have been trying everything. And I want to emphasize, we are the largest fire service in the country with more high-rises than any other city in North America other than New York. So we have the best of the best that are dealing with this. We also today have a team of multidisciplinary engineers from Toronto Fire Service, Toronto Building, and the building's owners all working together to try to come up with other ideas on how we can, as fast as possible, quickly extinguish this fire. But this is the problem that we are talking about. And if you can imagine a cigar burning slowly up and up without visible flames, this is what my staff have been dealing with since Thursday afternoon at 1:30, with no way to access it except very manual labor ways and very laborious ways. So we will continue our efforts. They have not stopped at all. And as I said, we have a team of engineers literally right now working on additional plans. Second thing Toronto Fire will comment on is the investigation into the origin, cause, and circumstances of this fire continues. So I will not be commenting on anything related to that at all. That is undergoing right now with the Toronto Fire Service Investigations Division and the Toronto Police Service. Finally, what I want to also state is the Toronto Fire Service engineers and inspectors and the Toronto Building engineers and inspectors concurrently right now are already working on and drafting plans on what it looks like when we extinguish this fire and how do we get people back as quickly as possible while doing it safely. So all of that work is being done at the same time while we continue to fight this fire. And that work will continue so that the minute this is out and Toronto Fire Service declares it is safe to return, any additional orders, remedial work, safety work, all of those plans will be in place so there is no delay. Again, I want to thank the residents for their patience. I want to, commend them for that. I can't imagine being displaced. And more importantly as well, I want to thank all of the first responders that have been here 24 hours a day since it started. Our firefighters have not stopped, and they will not stop until this is concluded. So I'm going to introduce the Executive Director of Toronto Emergency Management, Joanna Bevan, and after that we'll take any questions. Joanna.
Thank you, Chief. Just an update on the amount of households that we're helping. Right now we're at 141 households that are being supported by Canadian Red Cross. This represents 293 individuals, and that also represents 117 hotel rooms. We have the emergency supports that we have been giving these residents. We have extended them till Thursday. We look at this on a daily basis, working very closely with Toronto Fire Services and our partners to continue to assess the situation and the needs. What this includes is the hotel, food, basic hygiene supplies, and some transportation expenses provided by the Canadian Red Cross as per our agreement with Canadian Red Cross. Again, we continue to look at this on a case-by-case basis. We also encourage the residents to please get in touch with your insurance companies and look at what your coverage is, and also to seek accommodation where they can at family and friends. Any further questions on that?
Chief, is there any kind of a precedent for a fire like this? You said last week was one of the toughest you guys have had to fight in years. Words to that effect. I mean, what is it that is so unique about this? Have you seen one quite like this?
So in my 30 years, no, and I've obviously been meeting with our senior operations commanders that have been with Toronto Fire Service near 40 years. They have never seen something as complex as this. And again, the challenge is this is the combustible material. We can't access it. You're dealing with two buildings, and this was put in between an expansion joint. So we are coming up with additional strategies and plans. Again, we were up on the roof this morning, and there was visible smoke still coming out. And you're talking after 4 days of our staff continuously fighting this fire, literally both exteriorly from the roof and into units right now on the interior side. So that is the biggest challenge right now for Toronto Fire. It spans, the length, and we're trying to get access right now, and that's the issue.
How toxic is this material? I mean, the thing is, you mentioned that there was carbon monoxide originally that you were contending with, and that's why residents were asked to leave. How toxic is this if this has been burning now for 4 days, as you say?
So toxic, we don't test that. I will speak to carbon monoxide only because I don't know exactly what types of resins or anything in this. The reason I authorized the complete evacuation of these two buildings was based on the fact that despite our efforts, we could not get the fire under control, and the levels of carbon monoxide, which is a off-gassing of incomplete combustion. So whether it's this material, whether it's wood, whether it's anything, if you don't have enough oxygen feeding the fire, one of the byproducts is carbon monoxide. So that was the reason I ultimately authorized the request of the incident commander. So that's the problem right now. Is it was the CO levels at the time. As I said, we can't access this easily at all. We have been trying for 4 days, and we will continue to try. And that is why we have, as I said, a multidisciplinary team of engineers right now coming up with other ideas.
You also mentioned 24 hours after you put it out.
It's concrete.
Okay, you had mentioned that it would be 24 hours after you put the fire out before residents would be able to return to their homes. Is that still the case, or are you going to have to do some testing for whatever other materials that could be hazardous to them, not just the carbon monoxide?
No, great question. So what I said was a minimum of 24 hours before Toronto Fire Service would permit occupancy again. We will deal with the fire issue. Toronto Building, as I said, their team, we have been working all weekend with the Toronto Building Department proactively. They are on site right now looking at what they may need requiring, and then it will be up to the building owners on other issues that you may mention that they will have to deal with. But we will only speak and we will only deal with the Fire Protection and Prevention Act and making sure the building is fire safe. Toronto Building, as I said, they have engineers and inspectors on site right now proactively looking, and then the owners of these buildings will deal with the other matters.
So obviously no timelines still.
Unfortunately, there is no timelines. There is no timelines.
So Chief, I'm just trying to understand. I mean, a fire that's now been burning into the 5th day, you can't access it. I mean, obviously you're looking for solutions on how to even get eyes on it. But I mean, if this just continues to burn, what else can happen? Can it continue spreading through? I'm just trying to figure out what kind of damage is from this. And are you going to get to the point where you may have to demolish part of the building to get it?
So no, that has not even been discussed. That has not been contemplated or even thought of. Again, the challenge that we have is this product is between two buildings. And it is extremely difficult for us to access. We are doing our best. There is the very frustrating thing for our staff is it is not generating flames. As I said, think of a cigar that is slowly burning. And so it is just creeping up up and spreading. So at this point, our thermal imaging cameras are not even picking up heat signatures. So at this point, and again, that will be determined.
All right,
by
we're listening to Toronto Fire Chief Jim Jessop. Give us an update on that blaze that broke out in those two connected high-rises in Thorncliffe Park on Thursday. Over 400 units evacuated, no injuries, and we don't know the cause yet, but they still don't know when residents will be able to return because they still have some areas that are still smoldering, and it's the insulation between the buildings, between the walls, that the chief says is very difficult to reach. Let's bring in CTV's Janice Golding. You've been following this story, and you've been listening to that news conference. You've got more. Janice.
Yes, Nathan. We've been listening to the Fire Chief Jim Jessop as well as someone from Toronto Emergency Services, and they tell us that they have been trying to fight this fire for 4 days straight now. It is very, very complex. They said that they were on the roof today. There are still smoke rising from the expansion joint between the two buildings. And essentially what the chief says is that there is insulation or combustible material that's on fire, similar to a cigar. It's not completely combusting, so you're not seeing visible flames, but it is causing a significant amount of carbon monoxide. The fire is not out. He says they don't have a timeline as to when it will be out, in fact. He says they have a number of engineers here from both Toronto Fire and other multidisciplinary engineers here trying to figure out how to deal with this. But he says in his 30 years that he has been battling fires, he's never seen anything this complex. Other people on unit command have been here working for fire for 40 years, and they don't know how to deal with this. They say they're fighting through concrete. It's also in between the expansion joint, and it's extremely difficult to access apart from pouring water down from the roof. So at this point, they say they do not know when anyone is going to be able to go home. At this point, they say also that there are a number of people who have been displaced. At this point, 141 households, 293 individuals are staying in 117 hotel rooms that are being provided by the Red Cross. They're being provided with food and shelter, but they say they don't know when they're going to be able to go home. They don't know what kind of toxins may have been released into the air either. They have just measured for carbon monoxide at this point, but they say this is a very, very difficult fire to combat at this point, and they just do not know when they're going to have it out. That's it from us here. Now back to you, Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. Now, it's not the only firefight in the city. Flames broke out early this morning at a home in North York.
When first crews arrived, we realized this was a boarded up abandoned building. So we went defensive at first until our crews could get the windows and doors opened up, get the plywood off, and they realized there's some good active fire inside. It was updated to a second alarm. We had a total of 16 vehicles on scene, and working together with police and Toronto Paramedic Services. A good team effort. We were able to get this fire knocked down within an hour.
Emergency crews were called to that scene around 4:15 a.m. Fortunately, no injuries reported. The cause of the fire in this vacant home remains under investigation. There was also a house fire in Aurora early this morning. Flames broke out at the home on Beauvais Trail near Leslie and Bloomington Road around 4 a.m. Police say everyone was able to make it out of the home safely, and neighboring residents were also evacuated as a precaution.
And one person was taken to hospital after a car collided with a heavy-duty forklift in Scarborough early this morning. Police were called to a construction site near McCowan and Nugget Avenue, north of Shepherd, shortly before 1:30. The driver had to be extricated from their vehicles by firefighters. They were taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. The cause of the crash is still under investigation.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, concerns about Canada's flu season. Health experts are urging people to get vaccinated amid what could be a very challenging flu season. We'll have those details a little later in the newscast. But first, Feed Ontario has released its 2025 hunger report, warning the province is dealing with a strained healthcare system, increased homelessness, and community instability.
The report also found food bank usage increased for a 9th straight year. CTV's Mike Walker joins us live with more on the numbers. Mike.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, we are at the North York Harvest Food Bank, where today the warehouse appears full, but within the next 24 hours, most of this food will be distributed to about 40 agencies in order to meet the growing demand. This, as the latest hunger report shows, more than 1 million people have relied on food banks across Ontario. According to the Feed Ontario report, food banks saw more than 8.7 million visits between April 2024 and March 2025. That's a 13% increase year over year. And while the report notes there were fewer new clients, people were making more frequent visits over a longer period of time. Among them, 1 in 3 are children. 1 in 4 were employed but struggling to make ends meet. Food banks call this a crisis, saying that many local agencies are struggling to meet the growing demand or sustain operations within the next 6 months. And as a result, this will have an impact on homelessness and the healthcare system, which could potentially lead to longer wait times.
It's people from all walks of life, from various different forms of income, from various different housing situations, very different family situations. But the common denominator, unfortunately, is that we are all suffering under a crisis of affordability and lack of affordability. And as a result, more and more people aren't able to get by and need to turn to charities like North York Harvest Food Bank and other food banks across the province to meet their basic needs.
And so when there's nowhere left to turn, they turn to food banks. But if we can't provide the level of support that they need, then we're going to see some of the province's most pressing issues get worse.
Now, here at the North York Harvest Food Bank, about 30,000 people rely on it every month. That number has tripled from 5 years ago. Advocates are calling on all levels of government to implement poverty reduction strategies as well as address affordability and housing. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Back to you.
Thank you, Mike. The CEO of Metrolink says the opening date of the Eglinton Crosstown is near.
We have tested this system now across those 30 days in all kinds of weather, and I can tell you that today we believe is the last day of revenue service demonstration for the Eglinton Crosstown. What does that then mean going forward? It means the same things that it did for the Finch West LRT. Over the course of the next week, there'll be finer resolution of minor deficiencies. The project will achieve substantial completion. It will be ready. We will then work with partners at the TTC, as we are doing each and every day, to think about the ramp up of passenger service and the first date that we put passengers on this system.
The Eglinton Crosstown LRT was originally set to open in 2020, but has faced numerous delays. Metrolink CEO Michael Lindsley did not commit to an exact date for an opening. The project is also at least $1 billion over budget.
The union representing workers at the city's Community and Seniors Housing Agency says a tentative deal has been reached with its employer. News of this deal comes after workers voted overwhelmingly in favor of a strike mandate early last month. CUPE Local 79 represents more than 800 workers at TCHC and TSHC. The union says full details of the agreement will be shared publicly once it's ratified by its members.
A report card has been released on the state of new housing in Ontario, and Toronto received a failing grade. The report, done by ResCon and the University of Ottawa's Missing Middle Initiative, assessed the state of housing sales and construction over the first 9 months of the year. It looked at 34 municipalities in the GTA and Greater Golden Horseshoe region. 17 received an F, with another 9 receiving a D. The remaining 8 municipalities were graded C or higher. The authors of the report also say the decline in new home construction has a direct impact on the city's labor market.
A note for commuters, there is an early subway closure to be aware of this week on Line 1. Service will end at 11 p.m. between Eglinton and Shepherd Yonge stations due to tunnel work. The early closure will last through Wednesday. All stations will remain open for customers to purchase fares and connect with surface vehicles. Regular service will resume at 6 a.m. each following morning.
And we have more news in a moment, but first, a live look at the city this afternoon. Many of the city's outdoor public rinks are open. Great news. However, we are starting the month of December pretty chilly, and this chilly air is going to stick around for a while. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. I guess the plus is you can go outside and skate.
Well, you can go outside and skate, Nathan. You might even be able to do some skiing soon. It looks like a few hills are starting to get ready too with the colder air and the little assist from Mother Nature as far as natural snow. We're not talking about snow just yet, but we will be through the overnight hours tonight. It is currently -3 degrees in Toronto. Feels like -6 out there. Winds, though, are light. That's worth mentioning. Still a bit of a wind chill factor, however. A couple of scattered flurries around southern Ontario for today. We've got the possibility of some lake effect snow for areas further north, impacting the north end of Georgian Bay, for example. Here's today at a glance for Toronto. Afternoon high -1 degree. That is below seasonal. We'll enjoy varying amounts of sun and cloud. Tonight, it's going to get quite cold, and we've got a few fresh centimeters of snow in the forecast overnight tonight and into tomorrow. We'll take you through that forecast coming up. Michelle, I'll send it back to you for now.
Thanks, Lindsay. And with the cold, there's also cold and flu season arriving, and illnesses are spiking in areas across the country. Now, health experts are urging people to protect themselves. CTV's Scott Hurst has been following this story. He joins us live now with more. Scott, let's talk about it. What kind of flu season can Canadians expect this year? How's it looking?
Good afternoon, Michelle. Influenza is beginning to surge in Canada as the calendar flips to a new month and the cold weather begins to settle in. It is a sure sign that cold and flu season is coming along with it, and the numbers are already starting to back that up. According to the latest national surveillance data from Health Canada, the number of cases are trending upwards right now. Influenza detections have topped 2,100 in the past week, up from fewer than 1,400 just the week before, putting the percentage of positive tests up to 8.1%. Now, this has hospital staff bracing for what could be an intense influenza season. You couple that with RSV and COVID, this winter could bring a wave of respiratory illness. Now, there's a good chance you likely know someone who might be sick at the moment, most likely an older parent or grandparent or school-aged children. As the numbers, Michelle, are showing, influenza cases are hitting those 65 plus the hardest, followed by kids between 5 and 19 years old.
And nobody wants to get the flu, but definitely you have those who always get their flu shot. There are those who don't, and then sometimes people change their mind from year to year. I know this year there's been talk, at least concern raised, that the vaccines are not effective against newer strains of the flu virus. What do you know on that front? Is that worrisome?
There are warnings this year that the flu vaccine may not be the best match compared to at least previous years. Of course, the vaccine is made months in advance based on patterns and models and data and strains in other parts of the world. And sometimes the virus can change quite quickly and mutate. And that appears to be the case this year, at least with one of the strains impacting Canada. The current vaccine does, in fact, target some of the strains that are circulating in this country right now, but the World Health Organization has reported that the recent mutations of the H3N2 strain, and that is the concern right here in Canada, why the vaccine may not be the best match, particularly for that strain as it has been mutating. However, the best advice from medical health experts is to still get the vaccine. Here's more from Dr. Christopher Labos.
Even when the vaccine is not a perfect match for the circulating strains, it does still provide a fairly good degree of protection. Worth remembering that things don't have to be perfect in order to be useful, and the influenza vaccine, even when it's not perfect, is still pretty useful because it's giving you the coverage against 3 of the most likely circulating strains.
Now, Michelle, in trying to predict what flu season might look like here, medical experts often look to other parts of the world, particularly the southern hemisphere, for us here in the north in Canada. Now, it's too early to tell exactly what our flu season might look like, but in particular, it was quite a bad season in Australia.
Very interesting to note. Thank you. CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the National Newsroom. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Michelle.
Federal government sources have told CTV News there will be a cabinet shuffle today. It's being done to cover off Stephen Guilbeault's various portfolios. He also served as Carney's Quebec lieutenant. Guilbeault resigned as Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture last week, insisting Carney is dismantling the government's climate plans. Guilbeault is strongly opposed to the Liberals' new energy agreement with Alberta. The Prime Minister's office says there will be a swearing-in ceremony at Rideau Hall at 3 o'clock. Well, businesses across the country are looking to boost staffing levels over the holidays.
But how easy is it to actually find a job? CTV's Sarah Plowman took a closer look at the numbers.
At malls across Canada, people are hunting for a deal and some a job. Jaden Flexman landed her holiday gig at Hickory Farms, where she'll sell gourmet meats and cheeses into January.
It was a lot of applying online. There was about 200 online applications I'd done, if not more.
According to the job search site Indeed.com, holiday hiring is up 12% compared to last year, but companies aren't posting as many positions as they did 2 or 3 years ago.
There are going to be a few more options potentially out there. At the same time, job seekers are potentially competing with more of their peers.
Bernard says it's been a tough market for job seekers the past few years. Canada's unemployment rate is about 7%. The youth unemployment rate is double that.
To really get the labor market moving in the right direction, we just need a stronger overall economy.
To help keep up with holiday demand, Endeavours and Think Play in Fredericton posted one seasonal job. More than 180 applied.
We have combed through all of those resumes.
People with retail experience, but surprisingly, a lot of nurses too.
A lot of the applicants I noticed, there were multiple current positions and they're looking for a second, a third.
In Brandon, Manitoba, Toy Masters brought on new staff, including students, but had to turn dozens of people away.
It really breaks my heart to see how hard it is for a lot of these young adults and kids to be finding jobs these days.
Come January, Flexman will have another job. She has advice for anyone searching.
Just keep in mind budgeting, and paper resumes do still work sometimes, so don't give up on those.
Tips to digest when there's no avoiding a challenge. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
British Columbia Premier David Eby has changed his tune when it comes to a new pipeline in his province, after previously stating it would never happen. He now says he's open to the project under certain conditions.
If we can agree that the oil tanker ban is going to stay in place, then let's have those conversations. I think that would make life a lot better and easier in British Columbia in terms of our relationship with coastal First Nations, and would definitely take down the temperature.
The tanker ban, which was put in place 6 years ago, prohibits small or some larger tankers from docking at ports along BC's north coast. Eby says an exemption would anger First Nations groups and put existing energy projects in jeopardy. He has suggested increasing the capacity of the existing Trans Mountain pipeline instead. And CTV's Colton Prale has been following the pipeline politics and joins us live with more. Colton, how significant is the fact that BC's premier is open to a pipeline across BC to the Pacific Ocean?
It's a pretty significant change. Even just his acknowledgement that there is room to expand in TMX is a significant change. Both of those are positions that he has not taken publicly recently. Now, it's also worth pointing out, though, the expansion of TMX, which is included in the MOU that Ottawa and Alberta signed, is only about 300 to 400,000 barrels per day. And David Eby is okay with that, but you have Danielle Smith on the other side looking to increase exports by 1 million barrels per day. And that tells you one thing. It tells you something is getting built. If you're going to get to that goal, it's going to require a pipeline. What's interesting here is the acknowledgement from David Eby that that might be happening, and that if he can avoid the northwest coast, there is more interest there. Because so much of this isn't about where that pipeline is going to be. It's about the dynamics. It's about the conversations that are going to need to take place. Even though the federal government, if they wanted to, could step over First Nations, could step over BC, they have the jurisdiction. They have said they won't, and they've said whoever the private proponent for this pipeline is, they will need to consult with coastal First Nations and with BC if they want to go to the northwest coast. But if you're going to the Port of Vancouver, if you're following the TMX path and you're just adding another pipeline there, not expanding, you would have to do that as well, but also another pipeline, well, all of a sudden, that is a much easier conversation if you know the BC Premier is on your side. And so this expands the window for corporate Canada. It expands that private proponents' options as far as what could be considered. And you even heard as much in a separate interview on Question Period this weekend. Ian Anderson, he was the former head of Kinder Morgan and Trans Mountain Canada, had said that as well, that really it's going to be up to private industry to determine where this goes, whether it's Prince Rupert, whether it's Kitimat, or whether it's Vancouver, and Vancouver being in those options is a new development. Now, it's important to note Danielle Smith throughout all of this has been clear she wants it to go to the Northwest Coast, and that would require some sort of carve-out for the tanker ban, but this does present another option, and all of this moves the project forward ever so slightly. It's important to caveat, for a long time, David Eby has described this as a project without a route, without a proponent, without money. Those are his words. He is now shifting the window a little bit where it is easier to find that proponent, that money. And so this is rather significant, but it is still going to be quite some time before we see actual movement on this file. Danielle Smith is going to bring forward her proposal sometime next spring. It's likely going to be in May. That's when she said it would be by. And in the MOU, you see a June 1st hard deadline to have that in place. There are a number of other deadlines in April, so it's potential that it could come earlier, but expect it in the spring of next year. And from there, you have a much more clarity as far as the regulatory environment, but also the financing for these private companies to actually move forward on this. That's been a big barrier in the past. They haven't wanted to put up the millions of dollars required to even test the waters on this. And so really look for some movement after that point in time. At this point, you're looking at shovels in the ground at some point potentially before 2030. But either way, this is a setup for the near term, but it is still a larger conversation around where this pipeline eventually goes.
Yeah, pretty long runway. CTV's Colton Prale in Ottawa. Thank you.
Anytime.
U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff is set to travel to Moscow this week for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin about ending the war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris. Earlier today, Zelensky said tough issues still need to be resolved following discussions over the weekend between Ukrainian and American officials in Florida. The negotiations come as Ukraine is losing ground on the battlefield. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Washington is realistic about how difficult it is to try and reach a deal to end the fighting.
This is delicate, it's complicated, there are a lot of moving parts, and obviously there's another party involved here that'll have to be a part of the equation, and that'll continue later this week when Mr. Witkoff travels to Moscow.
At least 4 people have been killed. Another 40 were injured in a Russian missile attack in eastern Ukraine. The city of Dnipro and the surrounding region have repeatedly been attacked by Russian missiles and drones. Lindsay.
Well, November is now in the rear view, and I think so many of us are going to remember that particular month for bringing us early snow. Here's a look back. That first snow happening on the 9th of November when we picked up about 10 centimeters. That was unusually early. Now in December, we typically see about 24 centimeters of snow here in the city of Toronto. And so far, the month is off to a little bit of a cool start. We are below seasonal today and will be most days this week. Coming up, we'll talk about just how chilly it could get once you take the wind chill into consideration. And we've got a little more snow on the way. Details after the break.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
A new photography exhibition at It's OK Studios is marking 4 years of an outdoor program. It's aimed at helping young people discover the outdoor world and, in turn, themselves. For more on this exhibit, we're joined live by CTV's Jessica Smith, who's been checking it out. Can't wait to get a tour, Jess.
Honestly, Michelle, it really kind of shows you how beautiful our country is and how important it is to have these programs that help get people out of their comfort zone, out of their city, and into the great outdoors. I'm gonna start with Tara. You're the curator of the exhibit, or one of the curators. Talk to me about what one-on-one means and the kickback program, because I feel like it's really unique to be able to get some of these young people outside of the city and into the wild.
Of course. So thank you so much. Thank you all for coming and checking out the show and documenting this. To begin, Kickback, who is a facilitator of this, is a nonprofit out of the East End, bringing opportunities to a wide range of youth at the intersections of art, education, and sport. And so one of our programs that we have each year is called One-on-One. This show and this gallery is documenting the women's cohort that is made up of young women and girls who got a chance to step outside with us year after year to Quebec, to Alberta, and to Vancouver and British Columbia. When we talk about the outdoors, this is a very special program because they trust us to take them out there, to have a break from the routine, and to put them in spaces where they can challenge themselves, discover something new, and also have mentorship that facilitates that discovery and confidence building. That's the main part of where Kickback comes in and how one-on-one overlaps. But this is the finale moment of an 8-month initiative, more or less, that starts with these trips, and they're about 5 days long, and it's crazy and fun, and we're so lucky to have the young women and girls that are a part of this program who are climbing and hiking and kayaking, which is just some of the photo work you see here that was documented and lovingly brought back by Yasmin and Isabel, our photographers.
I want to talk to the photographer and one of the participants in the program. Yasmin, I want to ask you about what it was like kind of documenting all this.
It was super special because at a certain point I used to be in the program, and so to kind of shift into being the person who was documenting was really special because I shot everything on film, so I didn't really see what was going on, so I had to really live in every moment. So watching the girls kind of grow up from day one to now was super special, and to have this exhibit kind of bring it all together was really, really special to me as well.
We're out of time, but your favorite part? Really quickly, what was your favorite part?
Making a rap song about all our mentors at the end of the trip.
Well, we'll have more on this tonight at 5 and 6. I'm going to send things back inside to the studio.
Thank you, Jess. Oh, well, what a nice time to get outside. Even though it's chilly, we had that snow and it's fresh, and you start to feel like, well, we can handle winter.
Right. Christmas is a few weeks away, so why not have the outdoors look like it's Christmas? And plus, you can go outside and go skate or ski, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's nice that we're now, it feels like we're in winter. Actually, today is the first day of meteorological winter, so how about that, December 1st? Most of us mark it on our calendars as December 21st. So, yeah, a couple of weeks to go officially, but oh boy, it's going to feel like the season this week, and we've got a little more fresh snow in the forecast. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. The sun rose this morning in beautiful fashion as we welcome the month of December. You know, as we make our way through the next couple of days, it's not so much the active weather that we're going to be focusing on. It's the cold, and it will feel a little chilly at times, but we do also have some active weather to talk about. So let's get right to what you need to know for the start of another week. It is -3 degrees right now at Pearson Airport. It feels like -6. It's very cold today in parts of northern Ontario as well. We're on our way to an afternoon high of -1 degree, but it will continue to feel colder than that once you take the winds into consideration, although the winds are not overly strong, so that's a good thing. Our seasonal norm is about 4 degrees, so you'll notice that every day this week we're going to be cooler than that. And then overnight tonight, our forecast low is -5 degrees, but it's going to feel like -11 through the night. There's tomorrow at a glance. Periods of snow expected to begin overnight tonight, so around the midnight hour, and then tapering off into tomorrow morning. You'll see in just a moment how much of a near miss it is for some parts of southern Ontario. Forecast highs around 0 in some communities for your Tuesday. We should climb slightly above freezing to about 1 degree in Toronto, so that will be a nice change, but it will continue to feel a little bit cooler than that. Satellite and radar, not much happening today. I do expect a bit of an increase in cloud cover as the afternoon goes on. And then here's the next system. So again, this one's just, for the most part, it's going to remain stateside, but the upper edge of the low is just going to skirt right on by the GTA. So here's about midnight tonight, heading into Tuesday. There's 6 a.m. So Golden Horseshoe being impacted by this. If you're joining us from Barrie, for example, you might escape with no snow from this one. There's midday tomorrow. So we've said goodbye to it. Sunshine returns. Wednesday, we could see another round of light snow. And with this next one, it looks as though we could pick up maybe 1 to 4 centimeters of snow around the GTA. A very quick look at your 7-day forecast. Highs and lows pretty consistently below seasonal, feeling a bit of a chill for the first few days of December. That's the weather for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And still to come, why music lessons are good for more than just learning a new instrument. There are potential medical benefits. The data when we come back. New research shows musical training gives you much more than the ability to make music. It changes how you move and control your whole body.
For more on this, we're joined by CTV science and tech specialist Dan Riskin. So, Dan, how do music lessons change your brain?
Yeah, I was talking to my son about this, and he plays guitar, he's playing the bass, and I told him about this, and he said, I'm not surprised, because when you're learning how to play a musical instrument, you have to know where your hands are even without looking at them. And that's kind of what this study is about, is knowing where your body is without being able to see. For this study, they had people wear a blindfold and just march in place in a quiet room. And after 1 minute of marching in place with the blindfold, you see how much they've moved. And the simple finding is, if people have musical training, they don't move as much as people who don't have musical training. So when you're learning how to play an instrument, you're learning about your body.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, when I used to play piano, it's amazing that you can do this all at once. Sometimes while you're playing, you're like, how am I even doing this?
Right. It's parts of your brain that aren't conscious that are fired up. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there was a study involving a 1-week social media break for teens, and it actually had major mental health effects.
Yeah.
Tell us. A lot of parents want to know.
This is a great tip for parents if you're watching, and for teens, see if you can talk your parents into doing this with you. The teens were paid $150 each to go off social media for 1 week, and they volunteered. And after a week, they did a bunch of standardized measurements, which they'd done before the week and after the week. And it showed that depression went down significantly, about 25%, that anxiety went down about 15%, and insomnia also went down by about 15%. And you have to take it with a grain of salt, because the teens probably knew what to expect, right? If you say to a teen, if you go off social media, you'll be happier, and then you have them go off for a week, they volunteer, and then they go off for a week. Of course they're happier after a week, but it worked. And the fact that it works suggests that this might be a powerful thing we can all do in our own lives, or maybe with our kids to help them. And I should just point out, they were still using their phones. They could still text their friends. They just weren't on social media. That was the big difference.
Very helpful. Okay, another big debate, hot tubs or sauna. And I've heard, I guess, both sides of it. What does science say?
Well, science in a second. What's your opinion? What do you think is better, a hot tub or a sauna?
I would guess sauna.
You like sauna?
I think it's sauna, but saunas scare me, so I think I would like the hot tub, but yeah.
Yeah, great news for you, Michelle. It is hot tub. Hot tub won the contest. So
really?
When you heat yourself passively, you get these therapeutic benefits. It helps with blood flow. It can also fire up your immune system a little bit. This research showed that when you go in the hot tub, it increases your core body temperature about twice as much as when you have a sauna. And so you see those effects much more strongly. And especially that immune effect, that was stronger for the hot tub group and not so much for the sauna group. So if you're trying to pick one because of the health benefits, go with the hot tub, but really go for the one you like more, because, I mean, why bother if you're not going to enjoy it?
What kind of guy are you?
I'm a hot tub guy, for sure, 1000%.
All right. Thank you, Dan Riskin. Appreciate it. We learn something every time you're here. Take care.
Thanks.
Still to come, it's Cyber Monday, and shoppers are scouring the web for deals ahead of the holidays. We'll have more on the shopping frenzy when we come back. It's Cyber Monday, and another chance for shoppers to find deals ahead of the holidays and for businesses to grow their sales.
Consumers are gravitating toward resale, not only because they can get great things at good prices, but it's also that sense of being able to shop guilt-free because you're actually saving a lot of products from going to landfill. It's circular shopping. And as we speak, resale is actually poised to overtake fast fashion. So this is becoming huge.
Shopping services powered by artificial intelligence are expected to play a significant role in what people choose to buy. Software company Salesforce estimates AI assistants and digital agents already contributed more than $14 billion U.S. to the $79 billion which was spent globally on Black Friday.
It was Thanksgiving weekend in the U.S., which meant lots of families heading to the movies together, and that propelled a new animated sequel to the top of the box office.
We took an oath to make the world a better place, and an innocent snake needs our help.
Hollywood analysts tend to look at the 5-day holiday weekend around American Thanksgiving, and during that time, Zootopia 2 debuted with an estimated $156 million U.S. across North America. Wicked for Good lost the top spot, but still added $93 million to its box office total. Now You See Me, Now You Don't conjured up $10 million for third place.
You're watching CTV News at noon. We've got more news after the break. Stay with us. The Raptors were looking to avoid back-to-back losses when they took on the New York Knicks last night.
Quickly,
The Raptors kept it close through the first half, but the Knicks began to pull away. New York ended up winning this one 116-94. The Raptors will look to get back into the win column when they host the Portland Trail Blazers tomorrow.
A few things to note as we embark on a new week. Weather-wise, it definitely feels colder, and hey, a little more snow on the way.
Why not? We picked up a few centimeters over the weekend, a few slushy centimeters at that. You may have had to deal with a little bit of ice this morning as the temperature was quite chilly. But yes, overnight tonight, a little more in the way of snow. Here's a look at your forecast. So that snow beginning perhaps late toward the midnight hour and then through the overnight hours. -5 is the forecast low, but it's going to feel like -11. Tomorrow's forecast daytime high, though, is 1 degree, so we barely climb above the freezing mark. I think we'll take that. Here's the next 3 days. Might pick up maybe 2 to 4 centimeters of snow through tomorrow, but it all tapers off in the morning hours. Wednesday and Thursday look to be drier days. The chance of flurries, though, once again. In fact, there's a couple of opportunities through the 7-day forecast, but Thursday and Friday look to bring us a little bit of sun. Temperatures remain pretty consistently cool for this first full week of December. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.